How we doing, everybody? Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Monster Territory, brought to you by the Foul Territory Network. You know, we had a game today. We had a feel-good day. Got a series win against the Rangers. Started off terrible a few days ago. You won game 2. You win game 3 today. A pretty good all-around win. And then, as a Red Sox fan, this always happens. This always happens, right? I've seen this time and time and time again. For as long as I've been a Red Sox fan, you're feeling good, and all of a sudden you get slapped in the face, and life tells you, nope, hold on a second. We're going to put a damper on that. We're going to put a damper on that right now because we got some bad news to talk about. That's just how it's always been as a Red Sox fan. And that bad news is, once again, we're talking about Rafi and first base. I'm going to be honest with you. Kind of getting ready for this conversation to be over. I want to be over with this. I want a resolution to this whole thing. But Rafi, after the game today, he through his translator. We'll go over it. We'll go over the quotes here. I don't want to say anything wrong, but a quick paraphrase is basically not open to the idea of playing first base. Basically shooting it down, saying no. Remember, we had Rafi saying no in spring training to DH, and now we're seeing it again. Let's do a quick timeline here, just to get caught up with everything. Let's go back in time. Let's get caught up. So back in the offseason, you want the Red Sox to go out there and make a move. Eventually, they did with Alex Bregman. But leading up to that, you were hearing the Bregman rumors. You were hearing the interest. Well, we already have Rafi. Well, maybe Bregman can play second base. So you're hearing that a lot. But then all of a sudden, rumors about Christian Campbell started popping up. People in the front office love Christian Campbell. They thought this guy's the real deal. He could be our second baseman. But then you're thinking, all right, well, if Christian Campbell's going to be the second baseman, well, Bregman, how does that work? Well, they signed Bregman anyway. But then once you get to spring training, that's when things started getting a little crazy. All of a sudden, Bregman, he's taking grounders at third base, and you're thinking, well, hold on a second. Well, wait a minute. Well, why is he taking grounders at second base? He's taking him at third. Well, what's going on with Rafi? Remember, Rafi had that press conference, right, at spring training. Hey, Rafi, what do you think about DHing? Are you going to be the DH? And he just said, no, right? Eventually. Seemed like he came around to it. I mean, at the time, we didn't know, but they had a sit-down conversation. They said to Rafi, hey, we're going to be a better team with you at DH. Bregman, he's going to be an upgrade at third base. We love your bat. We need you to be the DH. Eventually, Bregman was the third baseman. Rafi was the DH. Then, okay, you're starting to get used to this new life. Bregman's at third base. Rafi's your designated hitter. Got off to a very bad start. A lot of strikeouts in the first week or so, but since then, he's gotten himself turned around. And Rafi's been very productive here over the last, 3 to 4 weeks. Rafi's back to being Rafi. Well, then all of a sudden, Tristan Casas goes down. You're waiting for Tristan Casas to break out, but unfortunately, we're not going to see that this year, right? Because Tristan Casas goes down with a major knee injury, tears his patella, out for the season. And now you're thinking, all right, well, what's going on with first base? What do we do? All eyes turned to Rafi Devers, right? Because this was a conversation in the offseason as well. There were rumors about Tristan Casas. We'll go back a little further. Tristan Casas, possible trade candidate. There was a conversation with the Mariners at one point. The Mariners said, hey, we like Casas. Well, the Red Sox said, all right, well, you're going to have to take Masataka Yoshida as well. The Mariners said, no, Tristan Casas ends up staying put. But the conversation around that was if Casas does end up being on the move, maybe Rafi could be your first baseman, right? Move from third to first base. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit, but that was the conversation. So fast forward, Casas out for the year, and then you start having the conversation. Rafi, first base, perfect. Lots of good reasons for it. A lot of third basemen in the past have moved to first base. It's, of course, he's going to have to learn the position, but for most players that have done it, they have, for the most part, been able to get the job done and gone on to have good careers at first base. Opens up the DH spot. Maybe some other players can fill in at that spot. It's a perfect solution. But then you start seeing the pushback immediately. Cora says no. He's the DH. Right now, we're going to roll with Romy Gonzalez. We're going to call up Abraham Toro, add him to the 40-man roster. Okay, well, all right. So that's the immediate answer. We're still open to maybe a long-term answer with Rafi. But in the meantime, Cora's saying no. However, Craig Breslow, on the other hand, talking with a press conference or talking to reporters at Fenway Park, saying all options are on the table. We're having internal discussions. And then today goes on WEEI and still reiterates that point, saying all options are on the table. We're considering everything. You know, even talked about the possibility of Rafi moving to first base, right? Sounded pretty open to it. Didn't full out say, yeah, I want Rafi at first base, but the way he was talking about it sounded like he was open to it. Well, on the other hand, Cora has been defiantly saying no. But we also had Cora yesterday. He sounded a little bit more open to the idea, saying, he's not saying the conversation can't happen in the future, but right now you can't just throw him there, right? And now here we are today. And we got this little bit of news here. And Alex Spear coming out with quite a lot to say here. So let me pull up the article. And we will read through it together. So, Rafi, he, with his translator, was talking with reporters after the game. After having a good game, hit a home run today. But it's not the whole conversation. But for the most part, it's most of the important details. I have something as well that I'm going to share with all of you. I already shared it on Twitter. It's kind of gone a little viral, so you might have already seen it. So, when asked, hold on, I'll go back a little further. Red Sox designated hitter Rafael Devers spoke to members of the media today. Devers said that Chief Baseball Officer Craig Breslow recently asked him about playing first base in the wake of the Tristan Casas injury. Devers said he is unwilling to take up the position, adding that the club told him to put away his glove when they moved him from third base to designated hitter this winter. He feels that the team has now gone back on its word. He also responded, sí, claro, which means basically yes, very much, when asked if he was upset by the request. He goes on to say, via translator, I know I'm a ball player, but at the same time, they can't expect me to play every single position out there. They talked to me and basically told me to put away my glove, that I wasn't going to play any other position but DH. So right now, I just feel like it's not an appropriate decision by them to ask me to play another position. I'm going to point out 3 key words right there. So right now. I think that's something to keep in mind. So right now. Devers added about Breslow, I'm not certain what he has with me. He played ball, and I would like to think that he knows that changing positions like that isn't easy. Here in the clubhouse, thankfully, the relationship that I have with my teammates is great. I don't understand some of the decisions that the GM makes. That is also interesting. Never once refers to him by his name. He just says the GM. That's interesting. It's kind of like, to me, I don't want to say it's disrespectful, but it's almost, I don't know, to me, it's always better to refer to someone by their name, right? Next thing you know, someone in the outfield gets hurt and they want me to play in the outfield. Well, let's push back on that really quick. Rafi, no one is going to ask you to play the outfield, my friend. That is absolutely not going to happen. As for the first base spot, Devers seems to think that an external addition is the answer. Now, I think they should do their job, essentially, and hit the market and look for another player. They put in quotations here on MLB Trade Rumors, which is where I'm reading it from, in quotations, to play first base. Now, I don't know. I don't necessarily think he could mean it like that. It's very possible he could mean it like that, but it could also mean maybe just go and find another player, go find another bat for the lineup. You never know. Just leaving things open for interpretation. I'm not sure why they want me to be in between the way they have me now. So the question is here, who is right? Now, I'm going to give you my honest answer. I think both sides, Rafi Devers and the front office, I'm going to go through arguments for both sides. I don't think both sides are wrong. I don't think both sides are correct. I think the answer is going to be somewhere in the middle, as it usually is in life, right? You're always going to have opinions and different views from opposite sides. But usually that answer falls somewhere in that middle area, all right? So I think both sides have arguments, and I don't think both sides have, I think you can question some things from both sides as well. Let's talk about the front office first, right? Let's talk about the team. Well, first off, it's an obvious need. Absolutely a need. They need someone to play first base. There is no argument there. We can all find common ground there. Rafi, in my opinion, is the best fit for first base. I've been thinking that. I'm not going to budge off that. Now, back to the offseason. I was, if we traded Casas, then Rafi, I thought, was the next best solution. Why is that? A lot of guys who have played third base have made the transition to first base. It's not the hot corner, right? But you're going to be fielding the position pretty similar, right? You're going to be doing different things when you got runners on and whatnot. There's different nuances when it comes to first base. Obviously, holding the runners, pickoff throws, making throws around the infield, where you are as a cutoff man. So yeah, there's going to be little things to learn, different positional situations, right? There's going to be different things to learn. It's going to be a process. But I think Rafi, he has shown a lot of good things at third base in the past, despite not being a good overall third baseman. Consistently, he was one of the worst third basemen, if not the worst third baseman, going back the last 3 years. When you look at where he ranked in outs above average, he was right near the bottom. I believe dead last in outs above average going back the last 3 years. I think maybe Jake Berger was ahead of him. Just pointing that out. Now, to me, when it comes to moving to third base, you go look at the examples, right? I mean, you can look at some examples with the Red Sox over the years. Kevin Youkilis, right? Go back that far. Remember, he came up as a third baseman. He made the move to first. Ended up becoming a Gold Glove first baseman. I'm not saying Rafi's going to be a Gold Glove first baseman, but if you work at it, I think he could end up being an average first baseman overall. And just pointing out as well, first base minus designated hitter has the lowest positional value in the game. When you look at the numbers, you're right. I'm not saying it's hard to learn, but when you're looking at the value of the position defensively, the other positions are going to outweigh it by far, right? DH, obviously not, right? But Kevin Youkilis made the move. Hanley Ramirez. Remember, Hanley Ramirez was at once upon a time, Hanley Ramirez was on the left side of the infield. Remember, he came up as a shortstop. Eventually, as he put on more size, he ended up making the move to first base later down the road. He figured it out. All right. We've seen Vlad Jr., who was looking like a once going to be the first baseman for the Red Sox. Obviously, that did not happen, right? Vlad Jr. came up as a third baseman, moved to first base. You've had legends move there. Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera. I think Jim Thome even came up as a third baseman. So there, I believe he was the third baseman when he came up. Kyle Schwarber came over to the Red Sox, played first base. I mean, he did it on the fly. I mean, if you want an example of a guy that can just put on a glove and go try it out, and then you end up sticking through there through the postseason, well, Kyle Schwarber's your guy. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying he was the best solution to be, the long-term first baseman, but he was able to figure it out for the most part, right? Lots of examples. Mike Napoli. Remember Mike Napoli? He came over to the Red Sox. He was a catcher for a long time. Ended up being the first baseman. And remember, Mike Napoli had issues with his hips. Remember that? Remember he was going to have a 3-year deal with the Red Sox. I believe it was like a 3-year, $36 million deal. Something with the hip came up in the physical. They the Red Sox ended up backing out of the contract. which I saw someone on Twitter today point that out, saying, oh, the Red Sox, they screwed over Mike Napoli. I'm like, what are you talking about? He had a hip problem. The Red Sox backed out of the deal because that's what are you talking about? Like, he had a hip problem, right? So the Red Sox were completely in the right to back out of the deal. And I don't know why I don't mean to bring that up, but it's like, I saw that today and I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Same thing with Carlos Correa with the Giants. Is anyone complaining about still the Giants not signing Carlos Correa? They backed out of that deal. A huge deal, and they backed out. Anyway, getting away from the point. Lots of guys have played third base. I think Rafi can make the transition there. I think he has enough mobility. He still moves around well, and he's still on the younger side. He's still on the other side, the good side of 30, right? He's 28 years old right now. So I think he can still move around there, and I think with time, he could get the job done. With some reps, get some practice there for, a good little while, I think he would be fine there. But most of all, honestly, moving Rafi to first base isn't what is going to fix this team. I mean, yes, it's a nice solution, but where it makes the team better is it opens up designated hitter. It gives you more flexibility with the roster where some guys in the outfield can go DH. Some guys in the infield can go DH a day. It can help give some guys days off. That could also give you the ability to call up Roman Anthony. I've talked about this many times. Roman Anthony is ready for Major League Baseball, maybe a couple of tweaks here and there, but for the most part, this guy looks as good as ready. That opens up a spot for him to share some time. I'm not saying he could be the full-time DH, but he could be in a rotation with, Roman. Willier could maybe go there a day or two. Whatever it may be, I think it makes a ton of sense. Again, Rafi isn't necessarily making the team better by moving to first base. It's what it does for the possibilities for the team that helps the team possibly get to that next level, right? So there's a lot of things I think that make a good argument. It's honestly not even a lot of arguments. It's only really a couple of points, but they're very strong points, in my opinion. Now, let's talk about Rafi. And honestly, I have a lot to say when it comes to pointing out the arguments for Rafi. I actually have more arguments for Rafi than I do for the front office. The reasons I have for Rafi to move to first, they're very big reasons, but I actually have more reasons for Rafi. Now, also, before I do move on, I want to point this out. Now, I posted this on Twitter. And it's not the whole interview, but it is I'd say a pretty solid clip of, I think it was like a 5-7 minute interview overall, or a press conference, or a scrum. But my lovely girlfriend, she speaks Spanish, and she translated this for me. And I'll just read what I typed here on Twitter. Rafi is basically saying the Red Sox wanted him to play first base, but he's saying it's not a good decision to play there right away since he needs time to adapt, and he's not like other players who have done it quicker. So I mentioned all those other players, all right? Rafi knows himself. He knows that it's going to take him some time to get acclimated to a position like that. It took him time to get acclimated to DH. I know that might sound ridiculous to a lot of people, but that's a big routine spot, right? He's so used to playing in the field, now he's basically just sitting on the bench and waiting to go for his ABs. He's got to learn this new routine of getting ready for his ABs, staying locked in, So it's a big routine-based position at DH, right? And now, he's already made that move, but now he's being asked again. And I also added on to this. When I was listening to this, I didn't hear a defiant Rafi. I heard more of a frustrated, but like more disappointed Rafi Devers. I didn't hear an angry Rafi Devers. I heard a frustrated one, like a disappointed one. And this was my thoughts on kind of what I'm thinking with Rafi. After hearing his tone And seeing a better translation here, I honestly think he feels a bit overwhelmed. He was moved from third base, and all eyes were on him. He's gotten comfortable now at DH, and all eyes are on him again. Seems like he wants to help the team, but also wants to feel ready. That's what I think, to me at least. I think he just thinks putting him at first base right now, tomorrow, like for the Royals game, that's a bad idea. It is a bad idea. I'm saying it would be better for him to play there with some time. Playing there tomorrow is not a good idea. You can't just throw someone there. He's got to learn it. He's got to, get some reps in. I think that's completely fair. And yeah, go back to the communication over the years. Over the last couple of years or so, right? He was frustrated with ownership, right? And yes, and they finally came through and they added players. He said he wanted the Red Sox to go out there and add players, right? So there's a little frustration stemming from that. And then they go out there, they make moves this offseason, and then they, kind of come at him with this whole thing, right? All right, hey, we want Bregman to play third, but they didn't talk to him about it. That's where I think probably something got messed up there. I think there was probably a way to have some kind of a conversation with Rafi about third base. I'm not sure how that could have been done, because I could also see the point too. If you talk to Rafi about looking to add a third baseman in the offseason, and then if you don't add a third baseman like Bregman or Arenado, remember he came up too, well, then you're kind of stuck. And then Rafi knows, okay, they were trying to replace me at third base. But I think maybe there could have been a conversation had about, just putting your minds together and thinking, hey, you know what? We think the best course of action is to go out there and get someone for third base. We feel like right now your value, we still see a lot of good things with you at third base, but we do want to see if maybe we can go out there and, try to solidify this team a little bit more. We value your bat. How do you feel about this? And again, there's a lot of ifs with that, but I just wonder if there was a conversation that could have been had about that. And I think honestly, he probably just felt a little frustrated about the lack of communication. He was probably seeing the rumors. He was probably seeing Bregman, Red Sox over the winter. Cora was talking about him, So yeah, he probably just wanted to, be talked to. He eventually made the move to DH. He got comfortable. Casas goes down. It's very short notice. I mean, and after all of that attention that you got in spring training, where people were kind of, there was a good amount of people that were, looking at him saying, Rafi, just DH. What are you doing? It's going to be the best thing for the team. So yeah, he was getting attacked. All right. He was getting a lot of people looking at him a certain way. And then he comes out of the gate struggling. He was already dealing with some shoulder stuff in the spring training. So, and then this happened. It's very short notice. And yeah, I get the side where you got to help out the team. You didn't plan on Tristan Casas going down, so you want someone to step up. And Rafi, right now on paper, logistically looks like the best possible player that could go there, the best fit. So, but you also, again, getting back to the point, it's very short notice. He hasn't had any time to go there. But then I'll say this too. I could look at the organization here and say, why didn't you get Rafi ready for this situation? Go back to last year. Why not have him take grounders at first base? It's all about versatility these days, right? Teams want their players to be versatile. Why weren't you having Rafi taking grounders at first base at all over the last several years? Why not? Why would you not? I mean, yes, he plays third base full time, but why not maybe learn a little bit of first base just in case that time ever came? So that's where I think the organization probably, they could have been a little better about it, right? Because if you did, and then this happened, well, now you'd be ready for it, I'm just saying. So I think you can look at the organization from, you can look at where they maybe failed there too. Lack of communication, not being prepared, not getting him prepared. So he's probably just feeling a little overwhelmed with everything. I think that's okay, to say, I think it's okay for a man to say, listen, I know I'm the man here, right? You need someone to step up, but hold on a second. Give me a little bit of a break here. I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, So I think that's fair if he feels that way. Again, you can't have the guy go play first base tomorrow. And I haven't said that once. I've been saying from the get-go since this whole thing, it's got to be later. Give him a few weeks. Have now Romy and Abraham Toro cover first base, but when he's ready to go, perfect. That gives Roman Anthony a few more weeks to get ready down in the minor leagues. He knows his time is coming. Hey, Roman. Hey, we're having Rafi take some grounders at first base. We think he's going to be ready. Let's say June. We're thinking June could be your time. We want you to be ready. Get locked in. You know? So that's what I think. Now, what's the answer, right? So obviously I pointed out a bunch of arguments for both sides, right? I think there is an argument from the team point of view. I think there's an argument from Rafi's point of view. I don't think anyone's right. I don't think anyone's wrong. I know I might sound, like I'm maybe sitting on the fence, but that's just reality. I don't think there's really anyone wrong here. I don't think there's really anyone right. I think there's a bit of both on both sides. That's just me. I think the answer is in the middle. I think at some point, Rafi does need to make that move. And I think it would be good because, hey, he wanted to play in the field, right? Well, there you go. This is a happy medium for him, right? Stays in the field. He's able to step up for the team. And I want to point this out too. I don't think he is this selfish guy that is saying, no, I'm not going to help the team. I'm already getting paid. I'm not doing that. Front office, they were messing around with me. Nah, I don't think he's doing that. I think he just simply, he's probably frustrated about everything, but he also just wants to feel right with himself, and he wants to feel ready. But I do think that is the right move. I do. I think that is the right move with due time. I think that's the right answer to me. Doesn't have to be right now, but let's get you ready for it. We believe, because I think you can also, from the front office point of view, you can present that to Rafi in a complimentary way. Hey man, listen, we know Bregman, we put him at third, but we think you're the best guy to take over for Tristan Casas. He went down. We think you're the next best guy. We don't want to trade for anyone. We don't want to bring anyone up because we think you're the guy. We think you are the best capable player of playing that position. I think if you presented it that way, then I think that's how you could sell him on it. We think you could be a Gold Glove first baseman. Did you work out at third base? In our eyes, we didn't see it, but we think you could be pretty good at first. We did it. Look at Kevin Youkilis. He became a Gold Glover. I'm not saying he's going to be a Gold Glover, but I think if you just told him that, show him how much you believe in him to be able to play that position, I think you can kind of get him to kind of lean more towards it, right? So, if it is not Rafi in the end, if this is the answer, if there is going to be no change of mind here, it is set, good to go, then you're going to have to start looking at other options. Personally, I've talked about Trevor Story. I think that could be a possibility. The defense has gone down a little bit this year at shortstop, still getting the job done there. But, this could open up some playing time for Marcelo Meyer, right? Marcelo Meyer is moving around a little bit better, right? Trevor Story, yes, he's the veteran guy. But if there's a guy that wants to put the team first, that wants to make up for all the injuries he's had over the last couple of years, this could be Trevor Story's time to shine. Move to first base. He's got a good glove at short. Maybe that glove can still work out at first base, right? Marcelo Meyer, he could fill in at short. Or, I haven't really been for this idea, but I see the argument for it, Christian Campbell. I personally want to keep Christian Campbell at second base because I want him to develop more. To me, I look at the development. Sure, do I think he could do it? But then, I think he could. He's got the height for it. And he's one of those guys that just wants to play anywhere. When I went to the Rays game, when I got press credentials, I was watching Campbell out there. That dude just has fun. He just goes out there and he's just running around. He's catching fly balls. He's taking grounders. That dude will go wherever you want him to, even if he's never played. I don't think he's ever played first base, but I think he would be up for it. And I think he would actually be pretty excited for the challenge of it. So, and then you can put him back at second base next year. You know, to me personally, I think second base is the best place for him right now. Maybe a little bit of outfield here and there, but I think he needs to develop at second base, get more reps out there. I think that's going to be better for him long term. And that way, and because then you could also look at where, okay, the bat's been very good with him. He's already trying to, get a bit more solidified at second base. Is moving him to first base going to be a distraction for him in his young career? Now he's having to learn how to play first. Well, is there going to be something that affects the bat there? I don't know. I don't know. I believe in Christian Campbell, the player, but hey, we are human at the end of the day. If he's trying so much to learn this new position at first base and trying to do well at it, is he still going to have the same production with the bat? I don't know. I'd have to see it. For me, I want to keep him at second base. That's just me. But if that ends up being the move, I understand it. It's not my preference, but I get it. Or free agency. Listen, I like a good story. I like Trevor's story, but I also like a good actual story. Bring Anthony Rizzo home. He started with the Red Sox in his career. Organization that drafted him ended up getting traded in the Adrian Gonzalez trade. Bring him home, full circle. Let's see if Anthony Rizzo has anything left in the tank. Why not? I mean, honestly, at the very least, he's going to be a good clubhouse guy. He'll go out there and play hard. I don't know what he's going to give you, but he can get the job done at first base. He's going to be good for the clubhouse. Maybe you could tap into something with the bat. Maybe the Red Sox could figure something out with him. Why not Rizzo? But the chances of that being, considering what he's done over the last couple of years, is there going to be a lot of ceiling for that? I don't know. For me personally, I'll get back to it. I think eventually with time, Rafi is the best solution. And I honestly think, remember, Rafi didn't want to be the DH at first. He eventually came around to it. This is different. It's not the same as moving to DH. I totally understand that. He's gonna have to put some work in, but let things die down a little bit. Let things marinate. The conversation's out there now. There's really not else more to say, but let things, get a couple of nights sleep. Let things, marinate. Let people think about things. And I could see Rafi coming around to this personally. I could see that happening, but give it time. June 1st. That's when I think. And if I were to make a prediction, I'm usually wrong with my predictions, but I think it eventually happens. I think he will be the first baseman at some point because it just makes too much sense. Yeah. You can bring up the feelings towards it. You can bring up, whether or not, we should be jerking around Rafi like this. We shouldn't be, pulling him off a third, moving him to DH, moving him to first. You can't be doing this tug of war with Rafi. Yeah, from a feelings point of view, from those arguments, yeah, they are valid. But at the end of the day, if you want to put the best team on the field and you want to get the best possible players into the lineup, that argument, in my opinion, wins out. Because that's just going to be, at least in my opinion, as of right now, that is going to be the solution to have the best possible team on the field. Again, you could say it's unfair. You can say it's not right. But if you're looking at it from, if you take out all the positions, let's say you put the lineup there. Let's say you got this lineup right here. Here, perfect. The way I have it on the screen, you can't even see the positions. If you throw Roman Anthony into this, no positions at all, and you just look at the names in the lineup, you look at that lineup and you go, oh man, that's a good lineup. Man, Duran, Devers, Bregman, Campbell, Roman Anthony, Trevor Story, batting, 7th, whatever it may be. Yeah, if you're not looking at the positions, Yeah, you're looking at a pretty good looking lineup right there. Well, then obviously the positions come into play. But to me, if you want the best bats possible, this is the answer. That's just my opinion. But everybody, I'm going to wrap it up right there. We already went live for the post-game show today. I've been doing a lot of streaming today. I also recorded a video for the main channel today, and I didn't get that done because of all this here tonight. So I got to work on that in the morning. But everybody, I'm going to wrap it up right there. Good, what's the word I'm looking for? Good conversation. I know a lot of people, they're probably going to go in the comments. They're going to disagree, with the arguments I've made for both sides. I get it. For me, I always look at things down the middle. You can call me, like I'm sitting on the fence. No, that's just the way I look at life. I always look at things from all perspectives, right? But that's just what I think. Everybody, I'm out of here. Go enjoy the rest of your night. If you're listening to this in podcast format, go enjoy the rest of your day. And hey, we got a game tomorrow in Kansas City. So everybody, we'll see you tomorrow for the post-game show. Talk to you next time. Damn it.